Did you know that more than 60% of caregivers experience symptoms of burnout? With 43.5 million caregivers in the United States, this means that over 26 million caregivers are burning out. Stay tuned to see what you can do about it. Hey Rehab Warriors, welcome back to Beyond the Rehab. Or if you're just joining today, thanks for tuning in to this educational podcast about how occupational therapy goes beyond traditional rehabilitation by incorporating different areas of life and healing. After a quick sponsored message, we'll dive deep into this week's theme, the caregiver's journey, finding balance and support. This episode of Beyond the Rehab is brought to you by Cubby Beds, the perfect solution for maximizing safety, sleep, and sensory regulation in any space. Cubby's advanced features make it the top choice for safety-conscious parents, but its thoughtfully crafted design is what will capture your kiddos' hearts. With tension walls and securable doors, remote monitoring, soothing sensory features, and kid-tested durability, Cubby Beds are loved by families and trusted by doctors. Cubby Beds are designed to transform any room into a functional, cozy haven. Whether it's for a guest room, a kid's bedroom, or an apartment in need of efficient use of space, Cubby Beds offer sleek, foldable options that are as practical as they are beautiful. Cubby Beds can be used by a person of any age with sleep, safety, or sensory needs. Ready to save space and sleep in comfort? Check them out today at cubbybeds.com and use the code BEYONDTHEREHAB for a special discount just for our listeners.
Beyond the rehab, where healing begins. Stories and tips, so strength always wins. OT knowledge, come along for the ride. Join us as warriors, you'll be just fine.
This episode is going to introduce caregiver burnout and discuss the impact on caregivers and their family, strategies for prevention and coping, and how OT can support caregivers. And later, we'll hear from a guest speaker who talks about her experience with caregiver burnout. Let's dive right in. As the population ages, more people are providing physical or psychological care for their loved ones. According to the Mayo Clinic, about 1 in 3 adults in the United States is an informal or family caregiver. A caregiver is anyone who helps another person in need. A person in need might be an ill partner, a child with a disability, or an aging friend or relative. Caregiving is high stress by nature and can lead to exhaustion, frustration, and feeling overwhelmed. Over time, the demands of caregiving can cause emotional and physical stress, leading to burnout. Caregiver burnout is a state of emotional exhaustion that results from failing, wearing out, or feeling empty or used up due to having too many demands on one's energy, strength, or resources. As a caregiver, it is easy to become so focused on your loved one that you don't see how caregiving affects your own health and well-being. Factors that increase the likelihood of caregiver burnout include living with the person you're caring for someone who needs constant care, having money problems, spending many hours caregiving, having no choice about being a caregiver, not having good coping skills, and having too little guidance from healthcare professionals. Caregiver burnout can result in an increase in mental health symptoms such as feeling burdened or worrying all the time, feeling fatigued, sleeping too much or not enough, being easily irritated, losing interest in activities you used to enjoy, withdrawing socially, and feeling depressed, helpless, or hopeless. Caregiver burnout can also lead to physical symptoms like gaining or losing weight, experiencing frequent headaches, pain, or other problems, misusing substances, and missing your own medical appointments. As well as impacting you directly, caregiver burnout can negatively impact the quality of care provided. Burned out caregivers are more likely to unintentionally neglect their loved ones. This can have devastating effects. If some of this is resonating with you, you're not alone. 17% of caregivers feel their health in general has gotten worse as a result of their caregiving responsibilities. 11% of family caregivers report that caregiving has caused their physical health to deteriorate, and 40 to 70% of family caregivers have clinically significant symptoms of depression. There are many strategies and resources that are available to support caregivers experiencing burnout or to help prevent burnout in the first place. Resources include respite care, local support groups, or nationwide organizations to support caregivers and their well-being. Some strategies for decreasing the impact of burnout in your life include focusing on what you can do, setting goals you can reach, getting connected and seeking social support, taking care of your own health, setting boundaries, practicing mindfulness and stress management, and prioritizing self-care. This may include rest, nutrition, exercise, and personal time. Remember, you're not alone. If you're feeling burnt out as a caregiver, it's important to reach out to your healthcare team for support. You can start by scheduling a meeting with your primary care doctor or therapist to discuss your emotional and physical well-being. Be open about your feelings of exhaustion, stress, and any challenges you're facing in your caregiving role. Your healthcare team can help connect you with resources such as counseling, support groups, or respite care services to alleviate burden and improve your overall health. They may also refer you to occupational therapy to support your caregiving journey. Occupational therapists are uniquely skilled in evaluating the needs of caregivers and developing personalized goals that are attainable. OTs then initiate evidence-based interventions to reach these goals, such as recommending and teaching adaptive strategies and ways to modify the caregiving environment. Using a compensatory frame of reference, OTs might identify and refer to assistance from resources, introduce assistive devices or equipment, and conduct home health visits to identify beneficial alterations to the living environment. Using an acquisitional frame of reference, OTs might work with caregivers in developing skills required for optimal performance within their caregiving role. They may train caregivers in safe lifting techniques, energy conservation, and task simplification to reduce physical strain. Using a cognitive behavioral frame of reference, OTs might assist caregivers with carving time out for their well-being, developing coping strategies, advocating for themselves, setting boundaries, and fostering a social support network. No matter the frame of reference, it is through evidence-based and client-centered interventions that OTs can empower caregivers with tools for managing caregiver stress and maintain their health and well-being. To finish out this episode, we're going to hear from a guest speaker who shares her personal experience with caregiving and caregiver burnout. Let's check it out. Hey Angela, tell me a bit about your experience as a caregiver.
I have two children that are on the autism spectrum and both have ADHD. My son was diagnosed when he was about 6 years old, and I was pregnant with the youngest child at the time, who also ended up having autism and ADHD. So from the birth on of our youngest, I've been a caregiver. Our youngest daughter seemed to require a lot more attention. She had a lot of sensory needs and a lot of just issues with just needing extra care with emotional regulation and sleep and all of that fun stuff. So that is when I became a caregiver, and she has demanded some ongoing needs. She's 16 now and still needs a lot of assistance with emotional regulation and some sensory needs and advocating through the school system.
Did you ever experience burnout?
I have had times where I felt definitely overwhelmed and burnt out. My daughter's needs were very, very high. She was suicidal and had a lot of emotional dysregulation and outbursts. She would physically hit us often, and it was very overwhelming. So there were times during that period of time where I felt like I was the only one who could care for her. Nobody else understood. Nobody else even saw what we were struggling with at home. And that was definitely overwhelming and a period of time where I sort of wanted to opt out if I could, except as a mom, you sort of can't, so you do what you have to do.
And what did you do about feeling burnt out?
At the time, I didn't really know a lot about what to do. I reached out to support groups through NAMI. I tried to make some friends and some talk to friends a lot. I attended some church groups for parents with special needs. Eventually, through a lot of networking, I also discovered county resources that were available because we weren't getting that information from our medical team or our doctors. But the networking with parents really did help us kind of channel into the right avenues and led us down the path of pursuing a caddy waiver program application for our daughter and And then once we did get approved for the caddy waiver, that was what made a huge difference as far as caregiver burnout. I didn't feel as overwhelmed and felt like I finally had the support that I needed to care for her needs.
Do you have any recommendations for our listeners who are feeling burnt out from caregiving?
I would recommend just plugging into the resources you have available, finding support groups, finding friends to talk to, making sure you find that little bit of time for yourself, even when it's difficult. Treating yourself to an occasional coffee or a half an hour at a coffee shop. And then really trying to find out what resources are available too. I think that the county and state do have resources available. You just have to sort of find them on your own and apply. And I think I'm guessing a lot of people probably feel like that's not something that they would qualify for, or that the paperwork is too overwhelming. But my recommendation is to do it anyway. Not pursuing it is already a no, so why not try and see what happens, because it did make a big difference for us.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks, Angela, for sharing your story. I really appreciated hearing it, and I'm sure our listeners will as well. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Hey, Rehab Warriors. I've really enjoyed this deep dive into caregiver burnout and how OT can help. It's important to recognize burnout early and seek help before it becomes overwhelming. Along with reaching out to your healthcare team about feelings of caregiver burnout, Family Caregiver Alliance is a resource of services for family caregivers with ongoing support through FCA CareNav, now on a digital service platform. Type in caregiver.org to your internet browser. Thanks for tuning in this week, and I'll see you next time with next week's theme, Breaking Down Barriers, OT and Mental Health.